I think it's fine to get started. We might have a few more people filter in.
Okay. Yeah, so I'll just kick things off by saying that, hi, everyone. Thank you all for attending. My name is Noah Greenswag. I manage IonE's grants program. And today I will be sort of guiding the tech things while all others sort of walk through the RFP and hopefully answer some questions that you all have regarding the RFP. So I'll go ahead and move on to the next slide. Oops.
Noah, folks are in the room now?
Yeah, they should be, yes.
Hey, everyone.
And I will try to send in a chat a link to all of these resources, but these are some of the resources we hope to cover today. So I think Jessica is going to start by kicking things off, talking about the RFP. So Jessica, I'll hand it over to you.
Hi, everybody. I know some of us, as we go around and take up different parts of the mantle here, we're going to introduce ourselves. So I'm Jessica Hellman. I'm the director of the Institute on the Environment, and I'm thrilled to be with our participants today and also recording this for future use for folks who might be interested in understanding more about our impact goal granting program and the fact that there's a call for proposals out right now, helping you generate really competitive and transformative proposal ideas is what we're all about in this webinar today. So I just wanted to start by taking a couple of steps back, which is actually the first page or two of the RFP. It talks about why are we doing this and what is the Institute on the Environment seeking to achieve through its impact goal granting program. So if we look back to the very beginning of the Institute on the Environment and its creation, its purpose is to stimulate interdisciplinary work across the entire University of Minnesota, or to serve what it means to do environment and sustainability research, education, and outreach across the University of Minnesota, including its multiple campuses. And how do you go about doing that? Well, we have a variety of strategic objectives at the Institute, but one of the main tools is to stimulate and to catalyze and to help steward research projects, bringing people together around a set of funds that enables us to begin and initiate and deepen and bring new people into work that we're doing that brings about change in Minnesota and all around the world. We articulate that presently in the Institute on the Environment's current strategic plan, which, by the way, is our current strategic plan ends in 2023, and we are currently developing a new version. But that strategic plan articulates that not only is the Institute an interdisciplinary entity that serves the entire University of Minnesota, it also has a mission. It has a purpose. We're seeking to stimulate education, research, and outreach that actually helps to lead us toward a sustainable future. We say a future where people and planet prosper together. And central to that strategic plan, therefore, when we talk about what does it mean to achieve that mission, we articulated wanting to point toward goals. We call them impact goals. So we want our work to lead us toward sustainable outcomes. What is the world that we seek to build and create that does enable all people and all of the relatives and creatures that live on this earth to flourish alongside of humanity? That's the future we're seeking to create. Having a goal orientation, imagining that future, and striving with across disciplines and with partners outside the university is essential to, it's helpful to have a goal in order to be able to realize the path toward that future. So this RFP is organized around the concepts of impact goals. You'll find, as Noah is showing us on the slide here, in the middle of the RFP, 3 bullet points which point us to specific topics or framing for the RFP granting process. And I should say there are many ways to work toward goals. Again, this granting is one way to stimulate and organize activity around higher ed serving goals and outcomes in our region, in our world. So we currently have at the Institute identified 3 what we call impact goals. These are big ideas of sustainability out in the world. And we say, what is necessary to get us closer to those goals? What is the research and education, communication, storytelling that we need to do to get us toward that goal? The 3 current impact goals are becoming becoming the first carbon neutral state in the nation. What does it mean to actually build a carbon neutral economy? And what do we have to figure out in order to make tangible, specific steps toward carbon neutrality? Second, how do we define and achieve a sustainable land use? There are many ways to use our natural resources, to conserve our natural resources, to steward our natural resources. What is the composition and ways in which we pursue activities on our land that leads to a sustainable allocation of land use in our state and around the world? And third, clean drinking water for all people. What do we need to figure out, achieve, implement, understand in order for everyone to be able to access safe drinking water at all times? One of the most precious and important resources in our state and around the world. In addition, in the RFP, we are also inviting proposals that work on food systems. So this is a second bullet item and category of RFP. A food system is a connectivity between sustainability and also nutrition and viability in the marketplace, if you will. So we're seeking proposals. This is actually externally funded by a gift from a foundation called Seeding the Future Foundation, looking for research that moves us closer toward a food system that is sustainable, provides healthy and nutritious food, and is chosen by consumers or aligned with or advances food policy. And then we have a third bucket, which says, okay, there are some other sustainability goals out there that are not just our featured 3 impact goals. If you can articulate, any proposer can articulate another goal, another sustainability outcome, and express what needs to be done in order to make meaningful progress toward achieving that goal, we would also entertain proposals in that area. So think about that goal orientation. What is the state we're striving toward? And what is the problem, the challenge, the lack of knowledge, the lack of translation, the lack of understanding of a problem that precludes us from making progress? And if we were to pursue the work that you propose, we will find ourselves moving closer to that sustainable state we all seek. That's a long, there are a lot more logistics to what it means to apply for these grants, but that's our theory, our motivation, and the topics of grants we are seeking to receive.
So hi, my name is Melissa Kenny. I'm the Director of Research and Knowledge Initiatives at the University of Minnesota's Institute on the Environment. And one of the questions that we oftentimes get asked about these proposals is, can they have an education focus or can they focus on storytelling, which are 2 of the critical elements that are necessary to drive impact and change given our strategic plan and our impact goals. So I was hoping to put 2 of my colleagues on the spot before we get into the logistics of the proposals to get their perspective on what that looks like. Kathy.
Sure. Hi, everyone. I'm Kathy Jordan. I direct the Sustainability, Education, and Leadership Development work at IonE. And we've been sort of experimenting and innovating, I guess, with this idea of funding education over the last cycle or 2. And yet this year, there's sort of another shift in how we're thinking about this. So this is explained in the FAQ, but just to walk through it for you, we welcome education as the focus or as a part of your application. And we think it can show up in about 3 ways. Maybe you'll come up with something different, but 3 ways that we can anticipate. One is that you want to propose actually research to understand a gap related to our knowledge about effective sustainability pedagogy however you define sustainability or the relevant issues, but something that's about the effectiveness of pedagogy. So that's a research proposal. The second would be developing a course or a curricular innovation or a leadership development program activity, something like that, where it's more educational programming. And then the third is including student experience or community education activity in a research proposal, much like you would include those sorts of things in a National Science Foundation proposal for broader impact. So in the case of the research proposal idea, pedagogical research, you will actually declare on your intent form, I'm submitting a research proposal. If you are intending to create as your main activity a pedagogical, curricular, leadership development, something like that activity, you would indicate on your form that you are submitting an education-focused proposal. And if you're thinking of education more in that broader impacts way, you don't need to, that would be part of a research proposal, and so you would just click for the research option. I think that's all I need to tell you. I hope that that is clear, and we can certainly answer clarifying questions on that if you have them. I'll turn it over to Julie.
Thanks, Kathy, and thanks, Melissa. Hi, everybody. I'm Julie Hannes, she, her pronouns, and I'm the Director of Public Interest Communications at the Institute. And I would really echo what Kathy said in the context of communications and engagement with this RFP. We are definitely inviting research to understand a knowledge gap in effective communications and engagement work with respect to our goals. I often say that research that seeks impact is also a communications activity based in evidence. So there is the research piece of it, and then we could also think of it much like a broader impacts type of activity where you are including a communications or storytelling activity, making it clear how the communications would align with or deepen the potential of the research to have its intended impact. And so with that, I'm going to turn it back to my colleagues.
Thanks so much, Julie and Kathy. And I know sometimes when we're going through this, you have questions. You don't have to hold your questions. Down at the bottom, there's a link that says Q&A. Please, as you're going through this, if you have questions, add them in there and we'll get them addressed. Thank you so much, Noah. What I want to do now is I actually just want to walk you through the RFP because our goal is for you to make our decision as hard as possible. We really want really great competitive proposals and for this to be a ridiculously difficult decision for the reviewers and the IonE decision makers. So if we go down to page 4, that starts the call for competitive proposals and what you need to do. And unique to this RFP, we are giving away $1 million, and you can propose medium scale projects, which will be awarded at 25 to 50K, or you can propose larger proposals at 100 to 200K. These are not intended to be reoccurring awards. These are about 2-year projects, and we recognize that the difference in range partially reflects like different scopes of work that are needed to drive impact, as well as the number of partners that are included and whether and to what extent those partners need to be paid for their time for the work that they are doing as part of this project. All right, so let's just go through like how to develop a proposal, because whether you're submitting a medium-sized or large-scale project, the process is the same. So we'll skip past this webinar because you guys are here. And the first step is what we want to do is we want to develop a community of reviewers who are going to be best equipped to provide insight into your proposal. So the first thing that we're doing, which is at the top of, I believe, page 5, is a statement of intent. This is due on February 13th. It's a very, very short form. It just gives us a sense of what your idea is and some of the things that you're thinking about. So as we're pulling together a team of reviewers, we make sure we have the right team pulled together to evaluate the kinds of proposals that we're getting in and the number of proposals that we're expecting. If you miss the deadline and you submit on the 14th, that's still okay. Just it's a non-required step along the way that just helps us to make sure that we have people in place to review your proposal. One of the most important things is the proposal is due March 14th. There is a submission form to submit your proposal. That form automatically closes at 11:59 Central Time. There is no way for us to bring proposal materials in after that deadline. So if you have any questions related to it, send it to the email address that's listed in the RFP and we'll address those. But make sure that you're ensuring that proposals will get submitted by that March 14th deadline. Just to give you a sense, if you go to the FAQ, what we do both for the statement of intent and the proposal, because it's in a form, we actually create screen captures of what you need to fill in so that you can prepare ahead of time and you know exactly what you need to have so that nothing is ever a surprise. In that form, we do ask a little bit of information about your team. And then one thing that ends up being really important that people sometimes don't spend some of the time doing is really developing that 150-word summary, because we have reviewers from within and beyond the university, from a diversity of expertise. That's your opportunity to convince people really fast that you're doing something really interesting that's going to move the needle for the sustainability priorities that are part of this RFP. You can review some of those summaries as part of our previous impact goal awardees with that link on the RFP. Just a few pieces, and we'll go through each of these individually. The proposal has 4 parts. It has a cover page, a proposal description, a management plan, citations, biosketches, some of those ancillary materials, as well as budget. So for the proposal cover page, it's just a page that provides the basic information that allows us to assess very quickly, like whether your team meets the requirements of this RFP. And remember, teams must be interdisciplinary, and that doesn't, that means that people are coming from 2 quite distinct different disciplines. If you're in the same department, that's probably not interdisciplinary in most cases, but if you have questions related to that, please ask and we can help you to know whether or not your team meets that kind of qualification. You must include people that are outside of the university. As we think about impact and really thinking about moving the needle on sustainability, that can't be done without the expertise that resides well beyond our university boundaries. And we want to make sure we have the contact information so we can share updates with entire team as they are made. Part number 2. So part number 2 is that proposal description. We moved away from a process of being overly prescriptive about size and space for different sections, and instead, what we give you is up to 5 pages, including any graphics, to describe what is the problem and what's the objective of the work that you're doing. What's your approach? How are you gonna develop the methods and really try and get new insights looking at the project objective that you have set? What are the outcomes and intended impacts? And those outcomes, like they can be academic. We want them also to be facing well beyond sort of traditional academic metrics about how it might be changing the landscape or providing new knowledge or insights that really help us to understand. And that's why community partners being integrated into the proposals are really critical, because in terms of sustainability implementation, that's done predominantly outside of our university borders. And so for the projects that are proposed, we really want to know what you're trying to change and who's partnering with you to help to facilitate some of those changes. The third part is a couple of pieces. One is a one-page project management plan. Because these are diverse teams, they haven't necessarily worked together, we want you to just think and describe about different people's roles and responsibilities and how you're going to work together, and whether or not there's certain existing resources that you're able to draw on. That doesn't mean necessarily financial. We also know that in some cases, there are certain partners that you may engage that cannot take salary or other, financial offsets for the time that they would be participating. So they might be bringing something to the table that would be important to articulate. Second thing on the next page is the citations. We know that a number of you all are going to be, citing peer-reviewed literature, literature in the practitioner realm, books, other things that might be relevant. We just want to make sure that you share it. It really doesn't matter the format that you use. We just kind of want to properly attribute anything that you're pulling from within the broader community. And then the final thing is biographical sketches or resumes. For those of us on the academic side, we oftentimes think about these as NSF bio sketches or, other sort of like short form CVs. Within communities outside of academia, those might look more like resumes, or it might be a bio that's being pulled. We just want to know who's on the team and like what their superpowers are, and some of the kind of work products and initiatives that they might have led that are relevant to the project. There's no prescribed format that needs to be adopted for those bio sketches because we know we're coming from a diversity of perspectives and fields. The fourth part is the budget. So there's no page limit on this. I do want you to know that there are specific templates that we are asking you to use just so that we can do budget checks and make sure that everything's in alignment so there's no hiccups if you were to be awarded funding, moving things through. There's a few notes and you can go through the details about what's fundable and what's not fundable, but I think the biggest thing as you're developing your budget that people are looking for in terms of whether your budget's appropriate is, does the work match the effort that's described in your budget? One thing that ends up being important that we wanted to point out is funds can be used to support non-university team members, and budget should be deployed equitably to support the project work. We understand also that some people may not be able to take funding for the time that they spend on that, and that should just be noted as in kind in the budget justification, just so that we know that there are commitments in alignment with the project goals to be able to support people's time towards this work. I do want to emphasize that in-kind support is not required or expected, and it will not factor into proposal decisions. We know when we work with different partners that the nature of the work is fundamentally different, and that requires budgets that are flexible to that. So just a reminder, that proposal is due March 14th by 11:59 Central Time. We will be undergoing a review process, and we will be letting people know in April whether or not their project moves to phase 2. And if you are invited as part of the second round review process, what we do that's a bit unique is we do finalist project pitches. These will be on May 16th and 17th. Teams are invited to provide a 10-minute presentation with their entire team, including our community partner members. It's going to be followed by a 10 to 15-minute Q&A period of time, and we'll be holding these virtually via Zoom so that everyone can participate regardless of schedules. If you are selected for a second round review, more information will be coming at that stage. So just to sum up, in terms of criteria for evaluation, we want projects that advance a sustainable future. As we're defining this RFP, project teams must be interdisciplinary, and it must include community engagement. Team members from outside of the university, that's the team composition. The project can't just be a continuation of something that already exists. We want things that are new endeavors or significant pivots. If you received previous impact goal funding and you're wondering whether or not your project meets that definition, send us an email through the email address on the last page, and we'll talk with you individually about that. You should be really clear in your proposal about the specific barrier and your way of addressing or overcoming it. This is not just problem-focused research. We are really aiming to identify different sustainable pathways. We want projects that are rigorous and thoughtful, and clearly identify the outcome that they are trying to achieve. In terms of projects that are focusing on food systems, it's really important that those projects involve the intersection of sustainability and nutrition in food, and also address aspects of adoption and impact on food policy. And if you have questions related to that, again, please send us an email if you have something that's project focused. We want teams that are well equipped to do it, budgets that are reasonable. And if you are thinking about things, we want ideas that might leverage next stage. These are not intended to be one and done. This is intended to seed, a garden that we're hoping will bloom in delightful and unexpected ways many years in the future. And then finally, given our commitment to being an anti-racist organization, we appreciate projects that are particularly competitive if they're pursuing innovative ways of engaging historically excluded people, marginalized communities, or new stakeholders, and projects that are explicitly using project approaches that are intended to address or reduce inequitable sustainability pathways. Projects that are extractive in nature with our community partners or from communities that have faced injustices will not move on to future review stages. And with that, let's move on to question and answer. So Noah, let me pass the torch to you.
Yeah, thank you, Melissa. And thank you everybody for sharing thus far. So beginning with our Q&A session or Q&A portion of this webinar, certainly feel free and please send any questions using the Q&A function on Zoom our way so everybody can get to answering them. And I see that we have one question already that I actually can address right now, which is there any way we can get the full statement of intent as a PDF or Word doc? And the answer is yes. On our FAQ, we have that on page, we have it beginning on page 9. And that shows all of the entire statement of intent form. So again, I've shared this earlier in the chat, but I can share it again. And I'll just kind of hang out on that.
I'm glad that answered your question, Paul. What other questions?
As we wait,
yeah.
Well, may I interject, Melissa, or really sort of underline some of the things that you said, right? Interdisciplinary, translational, involving partners outside the university. But if you have questions about the appropriateness of your work, if it is interdisciplinary enough, if you would like some consultation on finding a possible external university collaborator, if you have a project ongoing and you're wondering if this constitutes enough of a pivot or a growth angle, reach out to us. We can give you direct advice and help you generate a project proposal that would be competitive.
And that inbox, those emails can be sent to this inbox at the bottom of the RFP and also on the FAQ, that ione-grants@umn.edu, and we will be able to triage your request as appropriate.
So it looks like we have another question that came into the Q&A. Let me just read this one, and then I think we can respond to it. If we have another grant proposal currently in review, but won't know before the full proposal deadline on the status, how should we handle this? We'd like to submit the same project. It's not been previously funded, but if we do get grant one, we'd use this to amend and expand. Great question. What I'd encourage you to do is you can submit it as a proposal, but given that it is being submitted to another entity, and if you do get grant one and you are under consideration for this grant as well, you plan to amend and expand, I think in your proposal to us, it would be very important to address this and describe what amending and expanding is. If your plan is instead, if the other proposal is not funded, or if the other proposal, if it's funded through the other granting agency, to pull your proposal from consideration from this call, you don't need to address the amend and expand, but I would just note that this is a proposal that is under review from another granting agency. Is that fair? I'm seeing nods. Any other questions?
Melissa, I'll add on to that additionally. You said we really would like to know if that grant is pending elsewhere and whether you're intending to pull or change depending on that funding. Another sort of thing to consider is, depending on the funding source, there may be aspects of the impact goal granting program that would allow you to pursue something that maybe the other funder might not. Like, for example, the richness of external engagement, or a pedagogical component, or a communications element. So you might think not only, of course, the core project might be proposed to both, or you might be wanting to pursue both as a funding mechanism, but also consider how you could use the impact granting program to draw it out in slightly different ways as well.
Thanks, Jessica. So one question that we sometimes get, and I'm going to put you on the spot, Jessica, just so you know that this is coming to you, is we get questions about what is Seeding the Future Foundation and some of the priorities related to food systems. And I know this is addressed right at the front and center in our FAQ on the early pages, but I want to give you an opportunity to sort of highlight their investment in the impact goals this round.
That's right. So there is an FAQ that literally says, what is Seeding the Future Foundation? Seeding the Future Foundation is an organization that has given a gift specifically to the University of Minnesota, seeking to foster interdisciplinary work around healthy and sustainable foods. And there's a link in the FAQ to the foundation webpage where you can read more about that and about this vision of healthy and sustainable and how unique it is to pursue that intersection. There's a lot of work on the, say, carbon neutrality or sustainability of agriculture, and there's work on healthy food, but we need the intersection of both, and that's the focus of this, that particular dimension. But it's also worth saying, where does the mentioning, which is also covered in the RFP and FAQ, where does the funding that is administered through the Impact Goal Granting Program come from? That is an external gift for which we are extremely grateful. A component of Impact Goal Granting has always come from the central budget, the central allocation to the Institute on the Environment that comes from the university, because granting and stimulating research has always been a foundational expectation and responsibility of the Institute for the university. And we also have funding that's coming now under the current University of Minnesota Strategic Plan, Impact 2025, which is particularly focused and has a priority of stimulating a fully sustainable future. So some of the funds are new allocations that have arisen from that emphasis under our current strategic plan. So it comes from a variety of sources, but all oriented toward how can we get closer to sustainability outcomes.
Thank you so much, Jessica. One of the other questions we get asked a lot is, what do we mean by community partner? Are we literally only referring to people in communities? And I would point you to, in the RFP as well as the FAQ, we have a very expansive definition of community partner. We've referred to the term community partner to be any organization not affiliated with the University of Minnesota. So it could be a nonprofit, a community organization, local, district, state government, tribal government, or other similar types of organization. They are a full team member who can contribute unique expertise and perspective. And if you have any questions about whether or not someone like counts as a community partner, feel free to send those to us at that email address. But a partner is usually not a standalone individual unless that individual is affiliated with some group or the individual represents that group as part of a project. So do let us know if you have questions where a community partner would not sort of fall within that expansive definition. You just want to make sure something is in alignment with the RFP goals.
And if I may build on that, Melissa, if you are not an employee within the University of Minnesota, you see yourself as a potential community partner, you also can reach out. We have, on some occasions, been successful in taking folks outside the university who say, I have an essential impact-oriented research question that I'm looking for a partner inside the university who might be interested in taking this to scale with me. And we're not always successful at finding the right partner, but we have a number of success cases in the past. So also feel free to reach out if you are looking for a university collaborator. The purpose of our funds is to stimulate and enable activity that originates from the University of Minnesota. So our PIs need to be University of Minnesota people. But our expectation is that capacity will grow in connectivity to translators and knowledge brokers and creative people outside the university as well.
And then the final thing is if you're looking for community partners within the broader Minnesota community, one of the partnerships that we have is with RSDP, the Regional Sustainable Development Partners. And these are extension specialists that reside across our entire state that are well connected to community goals and values and can help to vet ideas about whether or not it's relevant and useful, and also connect you to partners. And the IonE liaison associated with RSDP is Ann Debsetter, the executive director of the Southwest RSDP, and her email address is in the FAQ if you want to reach out specifically to her related to connections or just bouncing forth an idea that might exist within the broader community. They've been really great at helping support the matchmaking that needs to happen to really drive impact. Seeing no other Q&As, Noah, let me turn things back to you to close us out for today.
Yeah, thanks again. Well, thank you to all of you who have joined and for all who are watching after the fact on YouTube when this gets posted. I'll say again that you can, if you think of a question after today's webinar, if you're watching it in the future and want to reach out, you can send it to ione-grants@umn.edu. And that can be a question about something you see on the RFP document, the FAQ document, statement of intent, the proposal submission form, anything. And we'll be able to either take our best crack at answering it or triage it to somebody else who can, again, hopefully help you with that question. So please feel free to reach out to that email address. Before we close out for good, is there anything any other panelists wants to add before we end this webinar?
No, please
Yeah,
make
no,
our job hard.
That's what I'll add to that. I was going to say ambition, impact, transformation. We really want to, our responsibility here is to accelerate our pathway to a sustainable future where people and planet prosper together. And this community of scholars and practitioners we have within us, and we are already on a path in many respects to really transformative work. And this is an opportunity to accelerate that. So please send us your best ideas, be ambitious, think about what will really lead to viable outcomes that matter to all people.
Okay, thank you, Jessica. That's a much more exciting and ambitious ending, so I love it. Thank you again to everyone who joined. All right, bye.
Thanks, Noah.